Hey traders, welcome back to another daily profit and loss recap video. Today is Monday, June 12th. I just finished up trading for the morning and I locked in $441 in profits. I took two trades in the stock AUUD. One of them was a winning trade and one of them was a losing trade. And in this video, I'm going to break down these two trades, talk about my thought process behind them, and hopefully you can take something and apply it to your own trading. So the first trade that I placed today with AUUD was towards the market open here. First of all, if we look at the pre-market activity, we can see that AUUD was gapping up from the previous day's close. It had a spike up in Friday's after hours session, and then it started to ramp up early this morning in the pre-market session as well, faded down into the open. And like I mentioned in a few of these videos at this point, these stocks that spike up early in the pre-market session and then fade back towards their lows into the open often have a solid opportunity for a reversal once the market opens and once volume starts to flood back into these stocks. So I was watching this for a gap and go, hoping to see a reversal at the market open, looking for a push back up towards these pre-market highs in the 80s and even up towards the $1 per share area. The trade that I ended up taking here ended up being a losing trade on this first one. And what we saw happen was we got this first initial spike up to a high of 72 cents. That 72 cent level is now going to become the opening range breakout level. We start to pull back, it curls up, briefly pushes above that opening range breakout level. And what I noticed on the chart here that I actually posted about in the Market Master group as well is that there was some dip buyers showing up in the mid 60s. We saw this pull back down to a low of 66 cents. It came straight back up. The following candle, we get another dip down into the 60s as well, comes straight back up, ramps back up into that opening range breakout level. And at the same time, while I was watching the tape, which is the level 2 in the time and sales, I was seeing a lot of buyers starting to show up in those 60s. So I was expecting this to push back up, form a higher high, potentially break through VWAP, and I was going to exit ideally at 80 cents per share or higher. So I bought a couple thousand shares after I saw the buyers stepping up in the 60s. Clearly, we can see it ended up rejecting that opening range breakout level after it had this false breakout, and it ended up fading back down. I had to cut losses on this trade in the low 60s, and from that trade, I started off my morning in the red. Now, if we zoom out a bit, we can see that AUUD a little bit later in the morning ended up having a reversal from a low of 56 cents, curls back up, starts to form some higher lows, pushes back up towards VWAP, and at this point it started to hit our scanners in the Market Master group. We can see these are all of the scanners that are live streamed to our traders in the group. One of them is the crossing VWAP scanner, and I noticed that AUUD started to hit this crossing VWAP scanner. That's why it ended up back on my radar. I know that these morning movers that end up curling back up and pushing back above VWAP can often end up being big runners in the afternoon, so that kind of gathered my attention back into this stock. I took another starter position once it started to break out above the VWAP here, and then I added to that position once again once it started to pull back, form another higher low, and sure enough, it was able to push back through VWAP once again. Volume started to pick up stronger than it's been all morning. I locked in some profits up here in the 80s, locked in the rest of my profits in the 90s, and ended up with $441 total for this stock with these two trades. Obviously, nothing new here. If we zoom out, we can see that I sold a bit too early. That seems to be the story with pretty much every single one of my trades lately. One thing that I'm working on and that I really need to focus on is being a little bit more patient with my winning trades. If you think about it and you change the spelling a little bit, the word pay is actually at the beginning of patience. So in other words, it pays to be patient, and that's something that I'm really working on with my personal trading. Even as a full-time day trader for years, there's still things that I'm trying to improve on. And that's probably the number one thing that I need to focus on personally to really start to improve my profitability. Okay, so with all of that being said, I actually had one other trade that I placed today. It was in a separate account in my TradeZero account. And for those of you that use TradeZero, you know that TradeZero does not have a software that can work on a Mac or on a MacBook or any Apple products. So when I'm doing short selling in my TradeZero account, I use a completely separate setup. Since the rest of my trading is done here on this computer, which is an iMac, and I use the E-Trade platform to actually do my trades and the Thinkorswim platform for my charting. Anyway, with all of that being said, the other trade that I did place that I didn't factor into the title of this video or into the screenshot because I don't have the screenshot from that other setup is with the stock IFBD. This was, however, posted in real time in the Market Master group, It was a really solid short opportunity this morning. This was a stock that was gapping up in pre-market. It also happens to be a relatively weak stock. Every time it gaps up historically, it ends up pulling back at the market open and fading lower throughout the day. So when I see a stock like that, generally speaking, I'm not looking for a gap and go. I'm either going to avoid it or I'm going to look for an opportunity to short sell it to actually profit from the stock reversing back to the downside. So if we go ahead and just draw a trend line here, what I was noticing was it was starting to form some lower highs, and we can actually draw a bit of a trend line resistance here that we can use to base the entry off of. So at the market open, we were opening down here at a price of $2.17. At that time, I posted over in the Market Master group, taking a short position in IFBD into this opening pop. As I mentioned in trading chat, this stock historically performs poorly after a gap up, and it's running into some resistance here in the mid twos, looking for a rejection for a fade back to 2. So I placed some orders to short sell into this opening pop, into this VWAP resistance, into this trendline resistance, and if we take a look down here at the daily chart as well, there's also some daily chart resistance in the 260s, which was another reason that I had confidence in short selling this setup. And as we can see, it rejected that area nicely, pulled straight back down, and ended up fading under $2 per share. I was able to make a solid profit on that trade as well. Okay, and very quickly, I also just want to cover the stock WETG. This was a stock that had a reverse split on Friday. We can see down here the daily chart has not yet adjusted to this reverse split, so it makes it look like there's this huge gap up in the stock, which is not actually the case. But a lot of times after a stock has a reverse split, what a reverse split does is it actually reduces the total number of shares that are tradable for the stock. So for example, if there is a 10-for-1 reverse split and the stock has previously a float of 10 million shares, after that reverse split, it's going to have a float of just 1 million shares. And as we know, low float stocks tend to be more volatile, and they tend to be the stocks that have these massive runs. So a lot of times after a reverse split is done, a stock can get pumped up and have a big spike. We saw that exact same thing happen with the stock APRN on Friday. We can see this had a reverse split on Thursday, kind of traded sideways, had a little bit of an intraday spike on Thursday, but Friday is where it had its massive spike from a low of $4.95 up to the same day being at a high of $10.49. So spiked over 100% from the low to the high, with no news other than the recent reverse split. So because of that, I was watching WETG this morning as well, and I'm still keeping it on my radar into the afternoon because of the reverse split. What I'm looking for is some higher lows to form, some volume to start coming into the stock, maybe for it to start forming some support above this 850 area, which is looking like it's been some intraday resistance. And if some of those things can start happening for this stock, there's a good chance that today or in the next couple of days, this can have one of those post-reverse split spikes as well. But as of now, there hasn't been any confirmation, so I haven't yet gotten into this stock. I'm just keeping it on my radar. But anyway, those three were my focuses for the day. Hopefully you found some value from this video and you enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to hear about these stocks that I'm trading in real time, work with our team of traders, watch our live scanner streams, get our trade plans, day trade and swing trade alerts, and more, there's going to be a link down below in the description to come join us in the Market Master group. Anyway, thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck with your trading.